Wisdom Council forever. I want a shirt. Or I want a hat.
Oh.
I want a trucker's hat.
Oh, I do have to get it. Wisdom Council.
Yeah. Dr. Curt Thompson, MD, PhD, Wisdom Council. Hi, guys.
Hey.
So good. So, Pep, should we dive into that question?
Yeah, I'm curious, Curt. So you did in the course of talking about that particular situation, you said, you were talking about how it was repaired, and then you said that you recovered pretty quickly from it. And so what does what do you see the difference between repair and recover? And B, what exactly does recover mean if you still have sort of visceral feelings about the event, and it brings things up, obviously, and so so I'm curious to know.
Yeah, and it's a great question. I think it probably in some respects it's how we use words. How are we using words? In some respects, I might say that repair, we would say, is kind of like the tent, the big tent under which other things that are part of that repair also exist. And recover might be one of those words. So, you have, you have my friend Byron, right, that I mentioned before, we were playing basketball back, this is 25 years ago. He falls, fractures his elbow, right? And they had to have a repair surgery, which they did. It went really well. He's back on the court in about 6 or 8 weeks. Great. A year later, we're playing. And somebody just, he just hits his elbow.
Yep.
And it went through him like an earthquake, despite the fact that his elbow was completely repaired. It was completely repaired. But there are echoes, right? Because where the bone heals, along the lines where the bone has to heal, the bone remembers. Mm-hmm. And so it can send pain signals to the body, despite the fact that the bone is completely repaired. Huh. Right? And so we can have experiences in which we have a rupture with somebody, and we do the genuine repair work. They come to us and say, I really screwed that up. And you get their genuine repentance, their genuine turning around, and you that happens. And then this has happened where I've hurt Phyllis's feelings about something, and we do the repair work, and then 2 weeks later or a month later or something, some memory comes back up about that moment. She feels it. Yes. That's like the memory of the bone. And in some respects, we would say that recovery, there are degrees of recovery. Am I able to, yes, I'm recovered from my surgery to get up and walk about. Sure. But I'm not yet recovered enough to get back onto the basketball floor. And then eventually I will get back on the basketball. But am I recovered enough so that I never have any pain again? No. But the repair has been effectively completed in order for me to live the life that I want to live. And so it may be a way that I'm using words. We can find ways to use that better. But yeah.
No, I don't necessarily think it is the way you. I think it's makes total sense when you explain it that way. And it's also, when we were talking about another subject, the three of us together, and some things were coming up for me from memory. You said that it's how important it is to just be able to regulate those things, because they're going to continue to come up, and it will still.
Right.
Yeah. And so.
Right. And as we'll get to when it comes to toxic ruptures, and not just what happens to us as individuals, but what happens to us in our social awareness and consciousness and so forth, especially when we talk about all the difficulties that we've been experiencing here in our country in the last 10 years or so or more. These things create deeply felt and remembered emotional states. And part of our challenge is that we can experience those memories of emotion, and we can misinterpret that to mean that I'm not yet fully repaired. Mm-hmm. Right? And there's work in that for us to do. Right? There's work in that. When the work of repairing a relationship can get so far, and I've recovered to a certain degree, but I have to keep working at this. But the ultimate, like the basic, fundamentals of the repair work have been completed, but then there's this recovery that continues to go on. And, we might say the whole process is repair, and that between now and the new heaven and new earth, everything is one big repair effort on God's part.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that you live with me, everything's one big rupture. It's, sometimes I think my marriage is a petri dish of rupture and repair. You could just study it, and hopefully the repair is happening timely enough. Anyway, Amy, let's have some reflections before I just go on.
Yeah. Okay, I had two thoughts because this is episode 5, but it feels foundational to me for two things. Like from the top, Curt, when you said like rupture and repair, it's part of life. And it made me think of The Road Less Traveled. When Scott Peck, he opens it with, life is difficult. And it's like, like you can settle into it. Fighting it is like trying to fight, the unfightable. So It's like, okay. So if that's a given, then what?
Right.
And then the other piece, the other piece is that, like, the idea that that rupture begins with birth, and then for us to know what was our experience, because then it's like what we then we anticipate that, like if your dad did shame you, we all have our stories, and knowing that story because we anticipate that now.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Well, as we were saying earlier, that like we are these big anticipation machines.
Yeah.
And so much of our anticipatory networks that are developed in the early years of our life, like we don't know that that's happening. We're just trying to survive. Right. We're just trying to do this. And so you're right. Like we will, if we begin to anticipate that ruptures will not be repaired, then we will create other coping strategies to deal with that. But that's not the way our bodies are made to operate. And so we do get to points eventually where my body starts to rebel against what I had been asking it to do. And that's when symptoms start to show up, no matter what those symptoms might be. As we like to say, at some level, life is just one continuous attempt repair ruptures, and all the symptoms, all of our trauma is really about unrepaired ruptures. That's really what it's about. And if we are folks who are going to reconcile, we are agents of reconciliation. We're agents of repairing ruptures. Yeah. And again, I think this notion too that it's not just, we're not just saying, ruptures happen, so it sucks, right?
Right.
Like Jesus says in John 16:33, they're like, in this world you will have tribulation. Good luck. Mm-hmm. No, he does not say that. He says, in this world you have tribulation. Be of good cheer, because I have said these things to you so that in me you will have peace. In me. You're not going to have it in the abstract. You're not going to have it because of philosophy or because of theology. You're going to have it because I'm coming for you. I am the repairer, capital R. Yeah,
it's good.
And so much shame is entangled in it because the first rupture that whole notion that we talked about in our last episode or 2 episodes ago about the biblical narrative, and like the first wound is there's a rupture, but with the intention of creating beauty and goodness.
Right.
Which is so different than so much of what we experience in life.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah. When you were saying, it feels like that even the process of therapy is a rupture for goodness and beauty. I mean, because you are going, yeah.
I mean, how many patients come in with particular ways of telling their story, and what they, and they have made sense of their traumas in a particular way. And this makes sense to them. Mm-hmm. And part of the work involved in their healing is necessarily going to involve their being willing to give up the story that they have told. It is a terrifying thing.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's the harder work.
to give up the story that I believe, and I'm going to try, and I'm going to trust you that you have a different story in mind about me and for me, and to which I would say, yep, I do. I have a different story. My job is to imagine something about you while your imagination is trying to catch up. And I'm not going to be out running ahead of you by 100 yards. Like I get it. Like when we're early in the game, like I am right beside you, right in front of you, right behind you. But I am inviting you to move into a different story than the one that you need to tell in order for you to keep coping with the story that you've constructed over the years. I'm like, yeah, it is that practice and process of yours that has you in my office in the first place.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
So good.
I think about us here. Like how much of my story in the last, what was it? The last 12 years, 12, now 13, however many years we've known each other. How much of my story is now different because being with you guys invites me, allows me, as we might say with a capital D, demands of me to tell my story differently than the one I had banging around in my head.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because the two of you can imagine things for me that I can't imagine for myself by myself.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for today, guys. Great
Yeah.
to see you both. And we'll be back next week.
Right on. Looking forward
Love
to
you
it.
guys.
Love you. All right.
Yeah.
Love you.